Hello, class. You weren't expecting this one, were you? My absolute favorite kind of content to make at this point is the kind that absolutely no one requested. I'm here for my entertainment and my entertainment alone. In 2002, the hit reality show The Bachelor premiered. In it, 20 of the hottest single women across America would vie for the affection of one man, ending in an engagement, and actually, oddly enough, a marriage in the first season. That will not be a running theme. Since that time, The Bachelor has created several spin-offs, like The Bachelorette, which just flips the genders of the leads and the contestants. Or Bachelor in Paradise, the best show in the Bachelor franchise. It's really not even close.
I do not want you to go over there and wreck the pinata. Please don't wreck the pinata.
Oh my God.
What's happening?
No! Or those other ones that no one watched, like Bachelor Winter Games or Bachelor Pad? Folks, I love the ABC Bachelor franchise. I also hate the ABC Bachelor franchise. It's a toxic relationship we have over here. It's a franchise with a lot of problems. It is a franchise with a persistent lack of diversity, and on top of that, it just so happens to have several contestants on a regular basis who, cosplayed the Antebellum South or wore blackface. Sure, those two things aren't related. Other than the times the show accidentally had queer leads who would then go on to come out after their time on the show, it's an overwhelmingly straight franchise. There have only been 2 plus-size identifying people in the franchise ever. Needless to say, it is a show that overwhelmingly caters to the conservative middle America. And yet, I cannot stop watching it. I first started watching the franchise back in 2019, and since that time I have watched every season of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and Bachelor in Paradise that has aired since that time. Except Clayton. They couldn't make me care about Clayton. And because there was a little pandemic in the middle, I had some free time, so I also went back and watched maybe 6 other older seasons of the franchise that aired before my time, which is fan behavior. I can't deny it. So why am I so obsessed with this show? I mean, of course, the show gives you some really classic reality TV schadenfreude.
Okay.
I'm not a classy bitch all the time, so
There we
it's
go.
fine.
All right, show me what you
All right, I get.
Oh,
But more than that, I think the Bachelor franchise is such an interesting insight into what the straight hot people are up to. We gotta keep our eyes on them and not just monitor them. Dare I say, this show has helped me be more empathetic towards hot people. And that is really what we need more of in this society. No one's talking about the hot people, are they? Every season you see miscommunications or conflicts that you can relate to, and you want to talk about these things with your friends who are also watching it, how you would react in that situation, how that contestant deserved better than what they got. And even though the show never fails to reach conversations, particularly around social issues or more nuanced relationship dynamics, decades after the rest of society got there, it is still so fascinating to see such a deeply antiquated and conservative show attempt to handle the changing culture around it. And also sometimes they just have the contestants rap with Soulja Boy, and that's a fun time for everyone.
Joy. Spoiler alert. She ends up with Soulja Boy.
One of the seasons that is most emblematic of the Bachelor franchise trying to grapple with society at large, and one of the best seasons of the franchise, without a doubt, is Hannah Brown's season of The Bachelorette. I did not watch this season when it originally aired. I started watching the Bachelor season that aired right after it. But I could not escape this season. It felt like everyone around me at the time was talking about it. I know Jarvis Johnson talked about it, Tiny Meat Gang talked about it on their podcast. I guess I don't remember anybody else who talked about it, but that's like 3 whole people I have a deep parasocial relationship with. So it definitely got the gears running in my head of maybe this is something I should be watching at this moment. In short, I was influenced. Yes, I was. So in 2020, I went back and watched Hannah Brown's season. And even though it had been super spoiled for me at that point, it was still an incredible piece of television that has stuck with me in my mind for years. The epic highs and lows of Alabama Hannah. There's nothing like it. And so I thought I could walk all of you through this season with me. If I were a better channel, I would have a giant conspiracy wall behind me. But because I am toxic, this recap is really going to focus on the drama. Yes, this is a show about finding love or whatever, but let's be real. That's not why any of us are here right now. Another thing, I am the first person out of my group of friends when we watch this show to point out when there's a weird cut or something has been clearly dubbed over. This show is incredibly edited. It is not a fully accurate portrayal of any of the very real people who were on this show. But to describe this show in the most coherent way possible, I'm just gonna have to take it as presented and Remind everyone at the top, we don't know these people. Don't send any weird DMs after this video. Also, inevitably, I mean, this is an hour-and-a-half show with 11 episodes. We're not going to cover everything that happens. You don't need to know that this man's name is Matthew and that he's a car bid spotter from Newport Beach. What is that job? You especially don't need to know that because I lied just now. That's Ryan, a roller boy from Philadelphia. Except I lied again. That's Brian, a teacher from Kentucky. Did any of those people compete on Hannah's season? I mean, if Hannah doesn't know, you shouldn't have to either. Finally, because this is a video where I'm recapping a reality show owned by the Disney company, there is a copyright claim just lurking around the corner to block this video internationally and never let it see the light of day. I will be showing short clips where I can, but there are some scenes which I think y'all just need to see to compromise for tonight's performance. I will be playing all of the parts. Not for the entire thing, dear God, just for a few very specific scenes, but I think it'll honestly be a better experience than just watching the show. I did 2 plays in high school, okay? I know what I'm doing. So with all of that in mind, let me tell you the story of Hannah Brown, our 15th Bachelorette. Y'all, I am so excited for today's sponsor because thematically, I don't think it could have lined up any better than this. Today's video is sponsored by Lilo. Sex is going to be a heated topic of discussion this season on The Bachelorette. It is great for everyone to explore their bodies, find out what their preferences are, and even enhance an experience with their partner. And each person's body is unique, so it's important to explore what works best for you. Today, I have the Lilo Enigma Wave, which is a triple simulation massager. It sucks, it vibrates, it moves. I mean, it's all you need. The Enigma Wave comes with 8 different settings, so you can customize the intensity and pattern that you want. This thing is 100% waterproof, so get as wet as you want. And it is all made with premium silicone that is warm to the touch. And with Valentine's Day coming up, whether you're looking for a gift for your partner or just a gift for yourself, check out all of Lilo's diverse and discounted product offerings. You can get a huge discount on some great products when you go to Lilo.com, and if you use my code in the description box, Ashley5, you get an additional 5% off your order, plus a few little extra gifts to enjoy your haul a little bit more. Thank you again to Lilo for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out. Happy Valentine's Day, and let's get back to it. Episode 1. To start off, of course, we have to meet our Bachelorette, Hannah.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
She's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and you best believe she loves Alabama football.
Roll Tide!
She's also a pageant queen, Southern. That's kind of all we know about her at the start. At first, I wasn't sold on Hannah as a lead. For context, most bachelors or bachelorettes are picked from the top 4 of the previous season of the opposite show, which is smart because it forces you to watch both versions so you can find someone you can root for as a lead in the next season. And you can usually tell in retrospect who that person is going to be just based on like whether they have a forgiving edit and whether they have a suspicious amount of screen time that doesn't really seem warranted. But Hannah kind of flew under the radar for most of Colton's season. I know she did have some drama with like other pageant girls who were there. I don't even remember what it was about. I really don't. Hannah didn't make it to the top 4. She was eliminated right before hometowns on a really weird date. Colton introduces Hannah to his family, and she's understandably very excited about that. That feels like a pretty serious move. And then he's like, well, too bad, I'm gonna dump her. But once you see her limo exit scene, you know she's lined up to be the Bachelorette.
Will not allow myself to not feel chosen every single day. And I'll wait till whatever that is.
So that is our Bachelorette. I think we'll actually learn a lot more about her just watching this season. But also, there are some men here. Let's meet some of the men from Hannah's season. First up, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Tyler C. I would say that Tyler is pretty universally considered the hottest man to ever grace the Bachelorette franchise, although he would not be my top pick from this season. We'll get to that one, don't worry. Tyler C is the ultimate handsome himbo, and he loves to dance.
I love to dance. It just puts you out there and you're vulnerable, and that's just what I love to do.
Next up, we have Pilot Pete, a man I cannot take seriously for even half a second.
I'm Peter, I'm 27.
I cannot see this man as anything more than a big goober, no matter how serious and sexy they try to present him.
I'm coming for you, Hannah.
Maybe I'm just biased though, who knows. Up next, we have Mike Johnson.
I'm Mike Johnson, Air Force veteran, Texas resident. Welcome to my city, Dallas.
He's a gentleman. He loves his grandma. And I mean, look at him. He looks like he could be a sexy Pixar dad. Does that make sense? It feels right to say. It really makes me happy to see just how much success he's had after the show. I mean, Speaker of the House, man, like, that's a pretty big deal. Next, we have him.
I'm Luke. I'm 24, and I live in Gainesville, Georgia.
You knew Luke P was a walking red flag the second they cut to him in a CrossFit gym.
I like to think I'm a good-looking guy. And when I was in college, a lot of the girls around me thought so too.
But then he had an encounter in the shower with God.
I had an encounter with God. I was in the shower and God was speaking to me.
I've had those too. Detachable shower heads, life-changing. The point is, Luke is a Christian man, saving himself for marriage, and he's ready to see if he's the one for Hannah. Next, we need the mandatory guy with some sort of goofy word association who will go home almost immediately. Every season has one. We have pizza guy, spaghetti guy, pizza gate guy. Oh wait, that guy's actually on this season. This season, we have the Box King. You don't need to remember the Box King, but I did want to unlock a new ick for everyone.
Just got dumped? I got a box for that. Just got dumped?
You're welcome. But enough of all of that. Hannah is ready for love and she is headed to the mansion. So let's bring on the men for them to actually meet her. The first limo rolls up and we've got some certified Bachelor Nation icons. First off, we have insurrectionist Sebastian Stan.
Hi.
How you doing, Hannah?
I'm good.
You look awesome.
Otherwise known as Garrett. Next, you already know him, already love him, Mike Johnson. Third, we have Jed. Jed is 25 years old, he's from Nashville, Tennessee, and a musician who just so happened to pack his guitar with him to go on this huge reality show. But I'm sure there's nothing suspicious going on there. Hannah seems to be immediately into Jed.
Yeah.
Damn, that was sexy.
Personally, I was over it the second he walked out in a velvet suit and a velvet bow tie. This man will continue to be just a sensory overload to me throughout the entire season, so get ready for that. Next, we have Tyler C. rizzing as usual. Then we have future Bachelor Nation royalty Dylan Barber. And finally, Connor S. is jumping over a fence for Hannah. Connor is a fan favorite from this season, and I can definitely see why. Something about his just incredibly bro-y voice really puts a smile on your face.
We had a good conversation, sealed it with a solid kiss. It was good.
Don't worry, we're not going to go into that much detail for every limo. This video is long enough, but I just had to point out how stacked that first group was. It's the name brand limo. We do have to talk about one person, my favorite contestant from Hannah's season, John Paul Jones.
My name is John Paul Jones. My
Okay.
friends call me John Paul Jones.
Okay.
So you can call me John Paul Jones.
John Paul Jones.
Does anyone else feel weirdly obligated to root for people solely because they are from your state? I mean, even if JPJ wasn't a Maryland boy, how can you not love this guy? It's John Paul Jones.
Yas queen. Yas queen. Yeah. Okay, we just go. Yas queen.
But unfortunately, we can't just talk about John Paul Jones all night because he has arrived.
Whoa.
He's the alpha, he's the leader, he's the one to trust. Hannah is into this. We all have to have our things, I guess. But for me, the fact that she didn't immediately send him home shows that Luke P is really going to go the distance on this show. Next, we have Cam. And one thing about Cam is he likes to rap.
Check this thing on. I gotta keep it fresh like I'm coming out the limo. What you know about me? This the rap demo.
Cam previously got a rose on the reunion special of the previous season. Sometimes the show will do this where they'll have the new Bachelor or Bachelorette pre-meet 5 of their contestants in front of a live studio audience to hype up the next season. And it's awkward every time. I hate it. But Cam got the rose on that reunion special with his freestyle rapping skills.
How did you get so good at freestyle rapping?
Just ABC, always be Cam.
He really is the Lin-Manuel Miranda of Bachelor Nation.
I was spitting some bars like Willy Wonka, so no big deal.
Next we have Chasen. He's a commercial airline pilot. And he seems nice. Boy, it sure would suck if a hotter pilot actually wearing his uniform walked out right now.
Okay. Hi.
Hello there.
Poor Chasen. He never stood a chance. But now that Hannah has met all of her men, it is time for the games to begin. Luke P pulls Hannah right away and really assures Hannah that he is here for her. And he uses a lot of really intense language to assure her. I think there might be a word for that.
And I don't know you all that well, but I'm seriously really, really into you.
As Hannah is continuing to chat up these men, the host, Chris Harrison, brings out the first impression rose. I love how everyone always acts like Chris Harrison just put a pipe bomb on the table when the rose comes out.
When Chris brought out the first impression rose, like everything just kind of stood still.
But wait, who is that out in the van out front for some very staged shenanigans? It's Katie and Demi.
This van is awesome.
I feel like we're FBI surveillance and I'm here for it.
Hannah Brown's friends and also contestants from Colton's season of The Bachelor. But wait, if Demi's serving and Katie's serving, then who the hell's flying this plane? Oh wait, Pilot Pete. Or Chasen, I guess. But they are here because someone told Demi that one of the men here has a girlfriend back home. Someone isn't here for the right reasons. It turns out the man with the girlfriend is this guy, Scott. According to Demi, Scott told his girlfriend that they were going to be together after the show and they were even planning to go on a trip after the show was done. And one thing I love about Miss Hannah Brown is that she can humble a man very quickly.
I knew you were nervous coming in today. It might be because you have a girlfriend.
Hannah sits Scott down and she's like, okay, Scott, I just want to know why these things would be said about you and exactly why you're here. And Scott says, yeah, I mean, I was dating a girl up until Monday, if you want to get like real specific, but like, I didn't want to marry her, so I didn't think it was a big deal. Hannah is rightfully pissed, and she says this isn't fair to the 29 other guys out there, and it's certainly not fair to the girl you left at home, but Scott isn't backing down. Scott is like, well, Hannah, you can get mad at me if you want, but I mean, you were madly in love with Colton like 6 months ago, and now you're here, so it's kind of the same thing as me going on a trip with a girl after the show. Scott is not cute enough to have this level of audacity. Hannah is done. It's time for Scott to head out, and if anyone else here has a girlfriend waiting for them back home, you better leave now.
If there's anybody else that has something else back home, please leave now.
No takers? Interesting. Hannah understandably is very upset about this encounter, and so she walks outside for a second to catch her breath. And the guys are all like, yeah, that's horrible. Like, I hate that that happened to her night one. Let's give her a second. Oh, wait, where's Luke P?
I don't rush into something like that. You know, I just want to give her a little time to take a deep breath and just kind of soothe and relax.
And it turns out getting Hannah when she's vulnerable is a great strategy because Luke gets the first impression rose. All right, then we have our first rose ceremony, and who does she give the final rose to?
John Paul Jones, will you accept this rose?
Yes, queen.
A moment of silence for the fallen. You don't know their names, but that's okay. I did want to have a whole Hunger Games ceremony every time we eliminated people, but y'all would get so tired of that so quickly. Episode 2. I am not going to go into detail with every date, but the group dates do tend to bring much more fun and drama, and we have 2 very solid group dates on this episode. First, we have the Mr. Right pageant, where Hannah is judging the men with Alaska, Alyssa Edwards, and Miss J. This is the best season of The Bachelorette. And because Alaska has incredible taste, she's Team Magic Mike all the way.
The drag queens being fearless and embodying who they are as a person is just resonating with me.
Sasha Fierce!
He's an ally. We of course have the mandatory scene where the men strip down to Speedos while women cheer, and the men on this season really do go for it. I don't even know if I can show John Paul Jones's walk on YouTube, but the main event for the pageant is the talent portion. Turns out our king John Paul Jones can ride a unicycle. And of course, Jed brought his guitar. Weird that we didn't see it in the scene where they all walked in. Guys, where do you think Jed had that guitar? Jed walks out looking so Christian Girl Autumn chic and hits us with a song that will unfortunately continue to be stuck in my head weeks later.
I'll be your Mr. Right, girl.
I'll be your Mr. Right, girl.
I'll be your Mr. Right.
Finally, we have Luke P to bring it home with his talent, love bombing. No, literally, he gets up there, grabs the microphone, and tells Hannah that he's starting to fall in love with her.
Hannah, I'm genuinely starting to fall in love with you.
They've known each other for a day. Hannah is loving this, but the rest of the guys on this date, not so happy. After the pageant, the group goes to a cocktail party, and Mike just has the shadiest toast.
Here's to people just being real, being honest, Don't overstep your bounds. Make sure that this is for the real reason, what this is love forever, not just 15 minutes.
Yeah. You can really tell his time with the drag queens rubbed off on him. Luke pulls Hannah first, and Hannah is like, hey, so you know how you said you were falling in love with me? I just want to know how that's possible so soon. And Luke explains, well, he already developed feelings for her when he saw her on TV. So actually, maybe it's not so crazy. And Hannah believes him. You can already tell she is smitten. After this, Luke goes back to sit with the rest of the guys, and he's like, hey, how y'all doing?
The way I feel right now, man, is that you a dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike explains that he doesn't want to see Hannah get her feelings hurt by Luke saying things that he doesn't mean. And he says straight up that he thinks Luke is full of it. And Luke's like, well, you can think that, man, but I go after what I want. Even though Luke professed that he was starting to fall in love, Jed pulls ahead and gets the group date rose. Hannah does not have a poker face, by the way, and it is already very apparent that she is into Jed and she is into Luke. Next, we have a one-on-one date with Tyler G. I'll be honest, maybe it's because I'm a hater of love, but the one-on-one dates are usually very boring to me. They go somewhere cool, then pretend to eat dinner while the contestant unpacks their deepest trauma that feels like it should not be on TV, and then fireworks go off. That's pretty much every date, so forgive me for mostly skipping past them. The next group date is a roller derby tournament. Best season. But one sad, sad man is not on any date this week.
I'm feeling very disappointed right now. I'm not on the date today.
Mr. ABC, Always Be Cam, did not get to go on a date, and he's very sad that he's not out there getting concussions with Hannah right now. So he decides that he's gonna be bold and take things into his own hands.
It can only be Cam. I always say ABC, always be Cam.
After the roller derby, Hannah and the gang go to Big Daddy Antiques. Fantastic name, no notes. And let me tell you, as a regular viewer of this franchise, drama always goes down when they go to Big Daddy Antiques. Something about the farmhouse chic decor just does something to the brain. Hannah is just sitting having a conversation with Devin, but oh god, Cam is right there. Honestly, Hannah seems more confused by Cam being here than anything, and based on his edit, we know that Cam is not here for the long run. And let's be so serious right now, none of these guys need to be threatened by someone who uses the word Hannah-lytical in a sentence.
I'm trying not to get over-Hannah-lytical, to overanalyze things.
But the guys are pissed that someone not on the date is taking up their time. The show has a lot of fun by just having Tyler C slowly walk up in the background while Cam is doing his confessional about how great that all went.
Differentiate, and I did what I had to do.
Good brother. Have you seen her?
Yeah, I just saw her.
Tyler doesn't even have to come at Cam for Cam to be threatened. We then basically have each man who is out on this group date come out and tell Cam how much they hate him and want him to leave.
Don't really appreciate that, dude.
I think barging in was probably not the best idea.
The next night is the cocktail party, the rose ceremony. Hannah is having a chat with Kevin when out of the shadows comes Cam. Again. Cam takes Hannah and Kevin, yes, he brings Kevin too, into this heart-shaped circle so that this throuple can all have chicken nuggets. And Kevin is not happy about this.
I think what you did with me tonight was honestly ridiculous as well. And with the whole chicken nuggets thing, I think you can honestly just go yourself, dude. Whoa.
Props to Cam for not even flinching when those chicken nuggets come flying at him. This is the kind of drama I absolutely live for. Top tier, fantastic. But it can't all be good. Luke and Hannah are making out, and Luke offers to give Hannah a massage. So naturally, Hannah's like, Luke, take off your shirt so I can massage you. Surely the producers are not going to immediately send someone in to witness you and shirtless Luke. Jed walks in and he's immediately like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna get out of here.
It's not super appealing, man. I'm just kidding, you're good.
But by the time Jed talks to Hannah about it, Jed's playing it cool and Hannah and him are laughing about the whole thing. If you're ever planning on going on that show, that's definitely the way to do it. Never let people see that you're jealous. It never ends well. Then we have the rose ceremony. The real tension of the night is whether Cam is going to stay. But they've got at least one more episode of drama to get out of this guy, so he's staying for the night. And here are the fallen from this evening. Episode 3, starting off with another great group date, except this time, we've got Cam. ABC, Always Be Cam. This group date is all about female anatomy and childbirth. Tyler C doesn't know a lot about female anatomy, but he is here and ready to learn.
I don't really know too much about pregnancy, but that your belly gets bigger and bigger, and the woman gets hungrier and hungrier. So, You know, I'm excited to learn what else is going on.
God bless him. Jason Biggs is here, and he makes a joke about Colton being a virgin, which, now that Colton has come out as gay, sounds really homophobic in retrospect.
Most men know how much fun it is to make babies. Well, except for Colton, am I right?
Yeah.
But the real fun comes when this doctor, I mean, I guess I don't know if they're a doctor, when this doctor comes and straps them to like a contraction simulator, and John Paul Jones almost breaks Hannah's hand when they turn that thing on.
Oh my gosh, oh my god!
That night, they're overlooking beautiful LA, and they just have an absolute stack of chicken nuggets. They have so many chicken nuggets on this group date that Jed and Hannah are just throwing them off the building onto a major highway.
And make a wish. All right, ready?
Yeah.
It doesn't get more romantic than that. But the night does take a serious turn, so just a forewarning there. Because this group date was about pregnancy and babies, it reminded Mike of an earlier relationship he was in where his partner had a miscarriage, and he's opening up about this with Hannah. Of course, it's a very emotional moment, which is unfortunately interrupted with reality show hijinks because Cam is here, with a sport coat over a hoodie, by the way. They show 3 different times where Cam walks in and is like, hey guys, can I get in here? And the last time he does this, Mike is like, all right, Cam, you can have Hannah. 1 second though. All right, she's all yours.
You have a good one, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Presumably, hopefully, Cam didn't know how serious that conversation was, but it's not looking great for Cam at this moment. Then when Cam is having a conversation with Hannah, this guy, Jonathan, walks in, and Jonathan is not fucking around. He's like, all right, buddy, get out of here. And so Cam and Jonathan start awkwardly fighting over who can walk Hannah to the door, but they're both walking Hannah to the door and fighting with Hannah physically in the middle.
I'm gonna walk her to the door, and you can have a spot. But I'll take it. I got it, man.
That was okay. I got you, bro.
Hey, real quick, Hannah, let me just give you.
This poor woman. Cam says, well, I can't physically fight this man, so I'll just be the bigger man. And by that, Cam means he's going to sit intimately close to Jonathan and just stare him down for a full minute in silence. The Cam drama is picking up steam at this point. I know I said I wouldn't go into details about the one-on-ones, but nothing if not inconsistent. You know that. This is one of my favorite one-on-ones. Our boy Connor S. is pumped.
I want so badly to just sail away into the horizon with Hannah and spend as much time with her as I can.
But unfortunately, the morning of the date, Hannah fainted and she was rushed to the hospital. So she's at her place recovering, but she's not feeling up for the original date plans with Connor. So instead, the production team has Connor buy her soup and flowers and comfort her in bed. Connor and Hannah are having a nice time getting to know each other. And we cut back to Luke P back at the mansion, and he's saying stuff like, if I was there, I'd never leave her side. I know she wants me there.
I know that just the thought of me in her mind makes her happy.
Connor S., you're a great man, but you're not the one for Hannah.
And he's gonna marry an awesome woman one day, but not Hannah.
Good stuff. Good talk, man. But then right before Connor leaves Hannah's house, Connor writes down all of the things he loves about Hannah and leaves them around her house like a little scavenger hunt for her. And I don't have a joke about this. That's just really sweet. Bachelor production team, you got me good with that one. The next group date is sponsored by the hit film The Secret Life of Pets 2, which is a perfect opportunity for Demi to come back and see the secret lives of these men. Demi is getting that Bachelor Nation check, and I respect her for it. Supposedly, they've hired 2 women who are here to hit on the men and see how they react. But from the bits that they show, it doesn't even seem like the ladies are trying that hard to flirt with the men, and none of them really say anything interesting because they barely show this. But during this date, Hannah is taking turns taking pictures with all of the men, and this is where you can really start to see the jealousy get to Luke P. Luke P interrupts poor Dylan's photo shoot time and has Hannah stand on his back while he does push-ups.
Are great.
Hey, I got one more real quick.
Am I getting kicked out of here?
I'm just gonna do some push-ups and you're gonna balance on my back.
What?
Which, yes, is impressive. But also Hannah leaves to go change outfits, and Luke is like, wait. Let me walk you to your dressing room. How are you doing, Hannah?
I gotta change.
Oh, do you?
Yes,
oh, okay.
I do.
Well, hey,
I can walk you to your changing room. Where are you going?
And even Hannah is like, Luke is doing too much. We need to stop this. So that night at the cocktail party, Hannah immediately pulls Luke and explains that he's definitely one of her strongest connections here, but she's starting to see some little red flags.
It's like this fine line of like, I really think it's attractive to like, it's the most unattractive thing I've ever seen in my life.
Once they sit down to talk, right out the gate, Luke is like, listen, you are literally the most perfect woman I have ever met, but I'm letting other guys develop strong feelings for you, and I just don't think any of these guys has what it takes to be your husband. This guy is such bad news, man. It's rough to watch. Unlike Luke, Hannah seems to be a pretty emotionally intelligent person, and I think she's very good at explaining what's bothering her, and she does not beat around the bush at all. Hannah explains to Luke, listen, it's great that we have a deep connection, but I feel like you're acting like you've already won the show and you don't respect my other relationships here. I would really appreciate if that changed. And so Hannah sends Luke back. Luke is not happy about this conversation because, you know, Hannah criticized him instead of telling him that he won the show already. He goes back out to sit with the guys and he's irritated.
Just chilling.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, great.
But he decides his best course of action would be to act like that conversation never happened.
I just want to continue to move on. I'm gonna act like the conversation never happened.
So Luke tries to go back and interrupt her time with Devin. Once again, Hannah's like, no, you need to back away, Luke. So Luke just starts menacingly cracking his knuckles in the hallway.
He's very unstable right now. Actually, I'm a little worried about him.
And Peter has the misfortune of making eye contact with Luke during that moment.
Hey, are you trying to talk to Hannah? Yeah. All right, that's not gonna happen. Like standing here, like you're about to intercept her. I wasn't trying to intercept her, dude. I'm just not an idiot, okay?
But when Hannah comes back out again, she says, Luke, I promise I am going to talk to you. Please, like, let me talk to all of the other guys here first. So Peter gets to steal her away. Luke goes back all defeated and is like, man, maybe I should just go home because I can't say that I'm in love with her, you know, on day 3.
Dude, I even had thoughts about leaving here tonight just because I can't say that I'm in love with her. If I did feel that way, then I would be ready to, you know, get down on my knee.
Understandably, the other guys who are hearing this are pissed off, confused. But of course, Luke doesn't actually leave. Just before Hannah hands out the group date rose, she pulls Luke again to be like, dude, I asked you to respect other relationships and you didn't even do that tonight. Like, chill out. And it's kind of looking like Hannah might be over the Luke P drama at this point. There's no cocktail party before the rose ceremony this time because we're getting a tailgate. But before we can have fun, Cam has a very serious announcement. He has something very serious to tell Hannah, and he doesn't know how Hannah's going to take it, but it's really important that he says it. So please, everyone, please let him have time at the tailgate. Thank you. And the rest of the guys take this as Cam trying to get a pity rose out of Hannah so that he can stay for another episode. Cam does end up telling his story to Hannah at the tailgate, and in fairness, the bits that they include do sound like Cam has been through a whole lot.
And all of a sudden I was running a fever and they had to rush me to the hospital. Essentially, they told me that I needed to get an amputation.
Which feels really weird against the goofy music the show has put in.
The surgery that I had in November of 2017 hit me the hardest.
I mean, Hannah knows all the stuff that Cam has pulled, right?
He's trying to tell Hannah that he is disabled and he will need his leg amputated in the future. He gets his leg amputated after the show. And that is something that she would probably want to know going into a relationship. It's not crazy that he would want to tell her that, but the guys already don't have a positive impression of Cam. And yeah, the way Cam announced that he was going to say something serious, he went about it in the weirdest way possible. So I also can see how it would look manipulative. And one thing Mike Johnson is not going to tolerate is someone trying to manipulate Hannah. Mike tells Hannah that Cam said he was going to tell Hannah this super sad story so that he could get a pity rose. And apparently, Cam had also been writing Dear John letters to the rest of the guys because he thought that he was going to go home. Which I do love that Cam was writing letters to men he knew for 3 days. We need more of that, I think. So Hannah pulls Cam aside and she's like, listen, the guys were telling me that the story you told me was just for a pity rose and I'm having a hard time because the timing of it is interesting. Like, what you said was very serious, but it's coming across manipulative to me. And also, why were you writing letters to the guys? Like, you thought you were going home? Cam responds, well, I never thought I was gonna go home. Hannah's not falling for that. She's like, Cam, why were you writing letters if you didn't think you were going home?
I was writing letters because I didn't know how you would respond to this.
So then you did think you were going home?
Yes.
So I know you'll all be shocked to hear that Cam does not get a rose. He goes home that night. But the Luke P show, that's not over by a long shot. And now, a moment of silence for the fallen.
Hi, so another thing I really should have mentioned while I was filming. Tyler G, he was the first one-on-one that Hannah had. He goes home this episode, and they don't say why, they just say that he had to leave. But around the time that they were filming the show, an ex-girlfriend of Tyler G came forward with allegations of DV. So it's possible that he was asked to leave by production, although we don't know. That's not me doubting the woman's claims, it's just we don't know if those two things were related. But after The Bachelorette aired, Tyler G did pass away. And so if you're wondering why I didn't put him in like the fallen from this episode in my little like Hunger Games bit, I thought it would be really tacky to do that. In case anyone was confused, that's what happened there. Okay.
Episode 4. We're leaving the mansion, baby.
You guys are heading to Newport, Rhode Island.
Woo! Our first one-on-one this week is with Gerber baby all grown up with a song in his heart, Jed Wyatt. Today, these two lovebirds are exploring Copslide City, Boston.
We're just two Southern people joining together in love to love on America here in Boston.
You said it, sister. This is another just fantastic date. We have Hannah B making up fake historical facts about Boston.
This is where Mr. Ronald McDonald got his idea for the Golden Arches.
Two players from the Celtics sit down and give Jed and Hannah relationship advice. We have a seamless integration of a Halo Top sponsorship.
I could eat this whole pint right now.
But the real kicker of this date, the thing you might want to remember, Jed reveals that initially he only wanted to go on the show to promote his music career. But now that he's here with Hannah, he's realizing that he's falling for her. And that doesn't matter anymore. Everything disappears when he's with Hannah Brown. Even some situations he might have back home, which we can discuss later. And our sweet Miss Hannah Brown is like, I appreciate your honesty, Jed. You seem like a real trustworthy fellow. The next group date will set off a chain of events so incredible, so chaotic, it cannot be forgotten. Even before the date has started, you can tell just by the look on everyone's faces that the group is tired of Luke P. They are openly cringing at every word he says.
Yeah, I'm a competitor, so it's about to get bloody.
So surely a group date where they play rugby with this fundy Wreck-It Ralph will go good for everyone. It won't. It won't go well. First off, poor Kevin can't catch a break on this show, and he lands on his shoulder and he has to leave the group date in an ambulance. But everyone is seemingly terrified of what Luke will do.
This is the kind of guy who might, like, God forbid, might, hurt someone.
He pulls poor Dylan by his collar, and then just out of the corner of Hannah's eye, Luke P body slams Luke S on the ground, and the show puts in this crazy slap sound effect. Hannah didn't see this whole exchange, and the camera only catches the body slam, but even just with the footage we have, it looks like it hurt. Right after this happens, Luke P does walk up to Luke S and is like, dude, I'm sorry. It was just self-defense. But Luke S does not want to talk to Luke P. He is done with this conversation. At this point, everyone on this group date is very mad at Luke P. Hannah doesn't know what really went down, but she does know that there was tension between Luke P and Luke S, and one thing about Hannah is that she's an investigator. She is determined to get to the bottom of this situation. So that night, Hannah is like, all right, Luke P, come over here. We're going to figure this out. So here is Luke P's initial version of how the story went. Luke says he had the ball, he stiff-armed Luke S to the ground, but then Luke S started cussing and clenched his fist as if he was going to hit Luke P in the face. And so Luke P was like, I panicked and threw him on his back. We have the footage. Does it look like Luke S was trying to punch Luke P? But Luke P is not done. He says that he's been trying really hard since their last conversation, and he hasn't gotten in any arguments with any of the other guys. I guess we just don't count that fight with Peter. But Luke P is like, listen, I don't want to talk about Luke S, but to be honest, I've seen red flags come up. Like, for instance, he's always talking about his brand and his liquor company, and I've never heard him talk about you, Hannah. Luke P is saying Luke S could be here for the wrong reasons.
I've told you nothing but the truth. Continue.
1000% honest.
Yes. I would never lie to you.
Don't like beat around the bush though, too.
At all.
Because that will make me mad.
About any details.
So Hannah leaves this conversation with Luke P even more confused than when she started. So next she pulls Luke S and says, I want to know what the deal is. Luke S gives his version of the story where basically Luke P hit him really hard, then threw him on the ground and kneed him in the head. But honestly, the logistics of how this rugby fight happened will just be a footnote in a much larger issue with Luke P. Hannah explains that when she was talking to Luke P said that Luke S and him have been having problems before, and Luke S is immediately like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, I have problems with Luke P, but everyone has problems with Luke P. Literally ask anybody else here.
So when you say that I had a thing with Luke P, we all have a thing with Luke P.
And Hannah's like, oh, okay. There was one more thing Luke P said, which did bother me. Luke P said that you were only here for your tequila brand, and that's concerning to me. Luke S flabbergasted. He's like, I understand why that would be concerning to you. That makes me upset that he said that. But can I just say, the fact that Luke S wants to start a tequila brand of all things is so perfect. Luke S was a political consultant in DC at the time he was on the show, and I think every DC consultant bro is always one bad day away from starting a tequila business. I really do. But Luke S says his business isn't even a business yet, and at least some of the guys in the house had no idea that Luke S even had this business in the works. And most importantly, Luke S is just infuriated that him talking about something he's so passionate about would be used against him like this. Sick and twisted, it really is. Then we get a glorious montage of all of the other guys just absolutely shitting on Luke P. Dustin explains that he saw the whole thing from the sidelines, and he says it was intentional, aggressive, unfair play, and bullying. Mike says, Luke P once told me he was going to tell you he was falling out of love with you and that he wanted to go home. And Dylan says that there's a reason 95% of the guys in this house don't get along with him. Hannah is upset, confused, and most importantly, she's really scared that she's misjudging this guy who she clearly really likes at this point. Oh look, Kevin is here. Poor Kevin. Then production makes all of the guys storm off one by one so we can get this really dramatic shot of Luke S staring down Luke P. Really going for that Emmy this season. But Luke S and Luke P basically just talk in circles the whole time until Luke S calls Luke P a psychopath and storms off.
And defend myself over some garbage fed to her by some psychopath.
All I've done is respect you.
Luke S, he's definitely going to need some of his own artisanal tequila after tonight. And granted, Hannah doesn't see any of these fights going on downstairs, but in her interview clips, she looks just emotionally spent. So much so that even before her one-on-one with Tyler C the next day, she's in tears because she still feels conflicted about how much she still likes Luke P, and every other person around her is just telling her he's bad news. And it's really sad that she's on a show centered on her finding love with some of the hottest, most eligible bachelors the show ever got. And she's already starting to get stuck in this awful cycle with Luke. In these moments, she really does feel like your one friend who has a trash boyfriend that they just cannot break away from, and it'll get progressively more frustrating seeing just how much the Bachelor production team enables these things, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Hannah does at least end up having a nice one-on-one with Tyler. Her spirits are lifted a little, but going into the cocktail party that night, the guys are still very much on edge. And Hannah says to the guys, it's very important to her that the men that are here for Hannah trust her to make decisions. She wants to figure out Luke P for herself, and she doesn't need everybody to tell her about the petty drama going on at the house. We then cut to Mike, Luke P, Tyler, and Kevin, poor Kevin, sitting down together. Mike's like, I'm upset because Hannah is still feeling bad, and Luke P, despite what you think, you're the reason that she's not happy right now. Luke P says, actually, you know what? I'm not the cause. Luke S is the cause.
Actually, I'm not the cause. Luke S is actually the cause of that because of the whole situation.
And then they go right back into fighting about the rugby situation, which devolves into Mike calling Luke P a millennial shithead.
You are millennial.
That's what you acting like. That's what you are right now. You are aggressive. You are abnormally violent. You scheme about things. You have lied about things.
You're ugly. You're disgusting. I'm gonna kill you. And then we get this glorious pan down to Luke P with his just little clenched up Arthur fists.
You are a psychopath. That's who you are.
Incredible. Then there's this interview that has been memed to death where Luke P has Googled the definition of a psychopath. Who gave him a phone, by the way, so he could do that? And he's just like, that ain't me.
This is the definition of psychopath. That's the complete opposite of me.
I think that you're trying to be...
By the way, Luke P is still claiming he was defending himself against Luke S.
I genuinely thought I was defending myself because
Luke?
he pulls up.
You defending yourself against Luke S?
Luke S, the guy who looks like he eats cheese with 2 fingers, like that. He wants to start a goddamn tequila business. Luke S is not threatening. So Luke S talks to Hannah, but unfortunately for Luke S, Hannah is still not sure how to feel about him. And Hannah's like, actually, I'm irritated with both of y'all, both sides. So Luke S walks back downstairs and he's like, Luke P, Hannah doesn't trust me. And it's because of what you said about the whole tequila thing. Do you really think I'm just here to promote my tequila business? And Luke P's like, no, I don't think that. And everyone's like, well, are you going to tell Hannah that you don't think that? And Luke P's like, yeah, I fully intend to tell her that I think, Luke S, you are here for the right reasons. Because guess what? Hannah's mad at me now, and I don't want Hannah to be mad at me. So I totally get how you feel, Luke S. Everyone's like, okay, Luke P, go up there, tell the truth. Bye. So Luke P goes back upstairs to Hannah and says, I shit you not. Listen, Hannah, you know what I said earlier about Luke S being here for the wrong reasons? I actually stand by that 100%. And just now, he wanted me to put in a good word for him. Hannah, and presumably the entire live audience, are floored by this exchange. Yesterday, Luke S was saying that Luke P was terrible, a monster. And then, for some reason, Luke S wants Luke P to, speak on his behalf. Hannah's like, that doesn't make any sense. And you're right, Hannah. It doesn't. Once again, Hannah pulls Luke S and says, listen, I'm confused because right now, Luke P was saying that you forced him to talk you up to me. And the immediate oh shit look on Luke S's face.
Talk you up and clear the air in a way. And I guess it's just
It wasn't to talk me up, it was to tell the truth.
It's over for him and Hannah. We all know it. He can explain as much as he wants, but Hannah clearly believes Luke P and likes Luke P way more. So Luke S goes downstairs and is like, Luke P, why would you frame it like that? We all saw this exchange and then you just walked upstairs and said the opposite. And this is when Luke S starts going on his villain origin story monologue. Luke S says, guys, I want you to be warned. This guy right here, he's good. This guy will do just about anything to screw you over. And I can't believe I got outsmarted by you. But let me tell you, man, karma is a bitch and you're gonna get yours.
Karma is a bitch, and you're gonna get yours.
And I love that this monologue is, again, coming from the least intimidating man in the house. But karma's a bitch and you're gonna get yours. Right at that moment, Hannah walks in and she's like, Luke, I want to hear y'all talk to each other because I'm just confused. What is going on? Episode 5. You guessed it, Luke and Luke just continue to bicker, and Hannah's face in this scene.
You're speaking for her now.
No. I'm just going based off what she's expressed to us and what I've perceived from you.
This poor woman is being tested. She says, never mind, actually, we're going right into a rose ceremony right now. I'm done with both of y'all. The guys are pissed because half of them didn't get to talk to Hannah that night. And Luke P's like, hey guys, I know you don't want to hear from me right now. And the guys are like, no, we don't. We hate you, Luke. Get out of here.
Well, no, you guys don't want to hear anything from me right now?
No, we don't.
We actually don't.
So save it, man.
The rose ceremony. Before Hannah even starts handing out the roses, Luke S walks up. And it's like, I'm gonna let you finish, Hannah, but I'm actually gonna send myself home right now. Oh, and also watch out for Luke P. He's a snake. And yes, Hannah does keep Luke P over John Paul Jones. We need an extra moment of silence right now. I'm so sorry, John Paul Jones. You were unappreciated in your time. But pack your bags, boys, because we're going to Scotland. This week, Mike gets a one-on-one, and it's a great time because Mike Johnson, great guy. Luke gets the next one-on-one.
I can't wait to not have any distractions. After this, I'm gonna really know if I really want to be here still.
Which is great news, actually, for the rest of the guys, because that means they don't have to be stuck with Luke on the group date. So actually, they have a drama-free romp in kilts. And Hannah has a great time. She's like, huh, wild that I had such a great time when Luke wasn't here. Weird. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Mike is dramatically reading a book about a monster born of pure evil, cut between ominous shots of Luke prowling around the castle they're staying at.
Monster is cagey and elusive to all but those with the keenest eyes. Crazy.
I feel like The Bachelor doesn't edit like this anymore, and it's a damn shame. Before Luke goes on his date, the whole group is like, dude, keep our names out of your mouth. Don't do to us what you did to Luke S. And if you shit talk any of us, we're gonna lose it. Especially Garrett, Jed, and Mike. And Luke S is like, don't worry guys, I am nothing if not truthful and drama free, so I will see you all later. Luke and Hannah have their one-on-one, and it goes bad. I will spare y'all the reenactment of this, but basically, Luke does, for one, bring up Dustin, Devin, and Mike when Hannah asks why all the guys don't like him.
People put words in my mouth and twisted a lot of what I said. I've asked guys like Mike, for instance, like Dylan and Devin were a little frustrated with me.
But really, he spends most of the date alternating between everyone in the real world loves him, so why would there be drama here? It's all of these guys' fault.
Everyone I've ever met, every place, every school I've ever been, anywhere I've ever been in my whole life, everyone loves me.
To saying, Hannah, I will do everything in my power to fight for you. You are the perfect woman, God's greatest gift on earth.
A lot of how they're treating me is totally not right, but it's not affecting me because I know I'm here for you, and I'm not ever gonna lose sight of that.
And Hannah is getting incredibly frustrated because to her, it seems like he's not saying how he feels. He's either blaming other people, deflecting, or he's saying a bunch of BS that doesn't really mean anything. Even though this conversation really is not going well, in her confessional, Hannah says that she's afraid of letting go of Luke when he could be the one that she's supposed to be with. Hannah is clearly battling between her heart and her attraction to Luke, and her brain, which on some level has to know that he's full of shit, but she still just can't quite see that yet. Or it's almost like she does know that he's full of shit, but she thinks that underneath the BS, there's a good person waiting to come out. Well, not almost, that's exactly what she says.
Saying it wasn't my intention, I'm a great guy, like people love me. That is like a facade that you put up, and I don't want that.
During their dinner, Luke is like, listen, Hannah, I love everything about you, even your flaws, which is a wild thing to say considering what's going on in this conversation.
If there is something that I do or say or a trait that I have that you don't think is okay, I want to know. I don't think right now I have any of those.
Yeah, you do.
A few.
Yeah, you do.
One.
You know Hannah already loves this man because her patience in this moment to even continue this conversation. A lot of people online like to diagnose Luke as a sociopath, a narcissist, and I'm not gonna do that. But in this conversation alone, he is so emotionally unintelligent and so self-involved, it drives me crazy, and I'm not even the one in a relationship with him. What I think adds to the viewer's frustration is that we know that Hannah is smart. She can confront people. She can have a real conversation, and we absolutely know that she deserves better than this. I mean, anyone deserves better than this. But this really does go to show that anyone can be manipulated, misled. We all can fall into toxic relationships. And I again wonder if the producers are also maybe lending credence to Luke's bullshit a little bit. I don't know that for sure, but that would not surprise me. Hannah explains very explicitly that she doesn't want to be married to someone who thinks it's everyone else's fault and can't take ownership for even the most basic things. Hannah picks up the rose and says, honestly, today was the worst day of this experience I've had so far.
Like, I can't give you this rose.
Episode 5B. Right back to it. Luke is shocked. So is this it? Is Luke going home?
Does that mean I go home tonight?
Yes. And I just want you to respect that.
Luke starts walking away. But the thing is, he cares about her so much that he doesn't want to go home. Does he have the power to make that decision? The producers seem to think so.
Really, I care about her so much, I don't want to go home.
So he pivots and walks right back into the house and says, Hannah, I'll be honest, I had no idea what you've been talking about this whole time, but I get it now. I'm gonna be so real. And so Hannah's like, okay, I guess. You don't get a rose tonight, but you can stay, and maybe I'll give you a rose at the rose ceremony tomorrow. In Hannah's confessional, she says, I know people aren't gonna get it, but if Luke continues to show the small moments where he has emotion, that man will receive a rose every time.
If he continues with the small moments where he really did show himself and show true emotion and struggle, then that man will receive a rose every time.
Needless to say, Hannah is in deep at this point. Luke waltzes back into the house and the guys look straight up defeated. But Garrett wants to know, did Luke bring up anyone's name on the date? Luke says no, which is kind of a lie. From what we saw earlier, Hannah asked Luke directly about situations in the house. So in response to Hannah's questions, Luke did bring people up, but he didn't necessarily bring people up unprompted. Is it a lie? Sure, yeah. But is it Luke's biggest issue when it comes to his relationship with Hannah? Not even close. But one thing you'll learn about Garrett is that he loves to bait Luke P into some petty drama, and this situation will quickly devolve. The next night is the cocktail party, the rose ceremony, and Hannah says that she's really excited for tonight. She's feeling ready to be vulnerable, to have some deep connections with people, and just really get to know everybody. So Garrett, what question do you have for Hannah?
So I just wanted to see if he stayed true to his word.
Oh, Garrett, you just want to know if Luke P brought up anyone on his date? The irony of Garrett bringing up Luke P unprompted during his one-on-one time with Hannah seems to be totally lost on him, but whatever. Hannah says, well, yeah, Luke did bring up Mike, Dylan, and Devin, but Hannah's like, I basically forced him to say their names because Luke was trying to be vague and I wanted specifics. But Hannah also importantly says, again, I know y'all don't like him, but please respect that I'm a grown woman and can make decisions about Luke's character on my own. And Garrett's like, sure, totally hear you. Anyways, Luke, what's good?
I didn't say anything negative or say anything about your character or anything like that.
Luke, no one believes you. Nobody believes you.
Garrett and Luke start straight up yelling back and forth over the semantics of whether Luke brought people up or not, and Hannah can hear them yelling from the other room. She can't even focus on her one-on-one time with Connor because she's so irritated with them at this point.
You didn't say you swore, or you said you didn't say
never.
anybody's names?
Take the word swore out of it, and that is what he said.
Can you guys not understand?
So she walks right in there and she's like, Luke, stop making excuses for yourself. We literally just talked about it. But also, since everyone has such a big problem with Luke and they clearly don't trust whatever he says, just ask me what happened so we can talk about it. And the guys suddenly don't have a whole lot to say. They're like, oh, right, totally makes sense, Hannah. Sure, totally get you. Then Hannah ends this exchange with a critical phrase that will be a theme throughout the rest of the show.
The thing I want to say to you all is stay in your freaking lane.
Stay in your lane. With that in mind, Hannah leaves the room and Garrett and Luke immediately start fighting over the exact same thing.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
My response is no. It's not about what went on, man. It's the principle.
The pettiness of Garrett and some of these other guys really does make me forget just how annoying and problematic Luke is, because in this moment, Hannah's so right. They can say they all want what's best for Hannah. They're doing this for Hannah. But right now, Garrett, Luke, and all of these other guys are making this night about themselves because they think that they know better than Hannah. I'm irritated. The guys who aren't in this drama are irritated, and poor Hannah is just breaking down in the hallway. So she swigs a glass of champagne and she walks in again. This time, Hannah is fully in tears. She says, I know you all think that Luke is the only one making me feel crazy right now, but guess what? It's all of you.
It's truly all of you that makes me feel this way.
None of you know anything about me. None of you have asked what I've been through, what makes me me, because guess what? All of this time, we just talk about petty shit that doesn't matter. So Hannah is done. She doesn't want to talk to any of them. And good for her. But then she talks to Chris Harrison out in the hallway, and Chris is like, listen, this is all happening because they're just crazy about you.
It's because they're crazy about you. But so is Luke.
No, I don't think that's all that is, Chris Harrison. Finally, the guys are like, oh, shit. We done goofed. Garrett, to his credit, does actually apologize for being petty, and he feels bad for making the night about himself.
I'm sorry I was petty, boys. I'll admit it. It sucks admitting it, but I was petty. I contributed in this.
Which is then perfectly cut with Luke saying, yeah, tonight was 100% Garrett's fault.
Hope that she forgives me for ruining an evening. I feel like tonight was my fault.
This is 100% Garrett's fault.
So it is straight into the rose ceremony. We already know. Luke stays, and here are all the men who are no longer with us. Episode 6. The gang this week is in Riga, Latvia, and this time, Garrett has the one-on-one. He's afraid of heights, so you best believe they're gonna make him bungee jump. I don't know why contestants tell producers they're afraid of heights, because they do this every season. But they're not just bungee jumping. They're naked bungee jumping while it is snowing/raining outside. Nothing like the fear of death and the harsh Latvian elements to really artificially create romance between two people. The date does go well, and once Garrett is back, he tells the boys what he's been up to with Hannah. And Luke cannot believe what he's hearing.
Who would want to be naked with that guy? There is no way Hannah went bungee jumping naked with Garrett.
I love the implication that if Hannah at least naked bungee jumped with Tyler or Mike, Luke would be a little more understanding. Like, if you're gonna see someone naked, go big or go home. The next day, the rest of the guys all go on a group date with Hannah, and the guys have really committed to being drama-free. They're having fun, they're drinking moonshine, Hannah is sucking on a giant pickle, great time. But the producers really want to push Luke over the edge. So Hannah again explains how yesterday she went naked bungee jumping with Garrett, and you can just see internally Luke's fists are like, he's not happy about it. Luke says that what Hannah did crossed a line. Her body is a temple, and to expose herself to anyone that is not her husband, that's a slap in Luke's face. You know, not her husband. That night, Hannah still having a great time. She's getting hot and heavy with Tyler C. Someone let Jed get to the piano again, so he's singing. But Luke has to stop the fun vibes because he wants to tell Hannah how he feels. He says, listen, I'm gonna tell you something, Hannah, and you're not gonna like it. Have you ever felt cheated on? Well, that's how I felt when I heard about you naked bungee jumping. Your body is a temple, and I need to feel confident in you when I take you to meet my family. But don't worry, Hannah. Even when you make a boneheaded mistake or you do something wrong, I'm still gonna support you, all right, babe? So glad we had that talk. Hannah does try to explain that this wasn't like a sexual experience. She was just trying to participate in the Latvian culture. But you can tell that she's taken aback by what he said, and she hasn't fully processed this conversation yet. The next day, Hannah goes to the sauna with Peter.
Beautiful. You did it before, I think. No.
Oh, and also Jed sneaks out to sing to Hannah again. Haven't I suffered enough?
I'll be your Mr. Right, girl.
I'll be your Mr. Right, girl. I'd like you to take note of one line in Jed's little song.
I would never tell a lie.
Back at the house, Garrett heard that Luke P talked about Garrett's one-on-one, and one thing about Garrett is he's gonna make this whole thing about himself. He says, Luke, man, asking Hannah details about a date that you weren't on, that's getting out of your lane, and Hannah told us to stay in our lane. And Luke replies, I'm not getting in your lane, but when I'm driving in my lane and I look over and I see what you and Hannah are doing, I just want clarity. Now for you, Garrett, to look over and say that I shouldn't need that, now that's you coming into my lane. Oh my God. For the record, Luke also says that he wasn't telling Hannah what to do with her body, and Garrett says, I don't care.
I wasn't ever telling her how and what she can or can't do with her body.
I don't care.
I just wanted more details.
So they're not fighting about the fact that Luke is shaming Hannah. This fight's about nothing. The next day, the day of the rose ceremony, Hannah drops by again unexpectedly, and she pulls Luke to talk. She's had some time now to think about everything Luke said, and it just hasn't sat well with her. She again explains that it wasn't a sexual thing, but even if it had been, Luke isn't her husband and he doesn't get to decide what she does with her body. And the language he used, like slap in the face, boneheaded mistake, bringing up the family, it was all incredibly hurtful. Luke doesn't have a response on the merits of this conversation, so he just starts gaslighting her. I realize that that expression is really overplayed, but it's like textbook.
I don't know if you totally remember everything I said in that same breath.
I do.
I wasn't even talking about the bungee jumping thing at all at that moment.
Well, you were. Yes, you were.
He's like, I'm sorry you misunderstood me. I don't want to say you're twisting my words, but Hannah knows what Luke says, and she sticks by it. And once again, she's leaving a conversation with Luke frustrated and upset. So Luke walks back into the room with the guys, and this is one of those scenes where I can't just describe. Well, I know you guys are going to ask me, so I'm just going to get to it. Well, one, for starters, what Hannah and I just talked about is something that's completely between me and Hannah. And I'm not going to talk about it with you guys. And I'll also say this, if there were details that weren't spoken of, like you from your date, this wouldn't have even come up. But I will say this too. So hold on, are you blaming him for talking about his date? No, I'm thanking him for talking about his date. Oh, that's not what you told me last night. Can you let me finish real quick? You know what she needs right now from all of us? And I'm not blaming anyone for doing anything. She needs us to stay in our lanes completely, but you weren't. I'm going to be doing that. No, you won't. Okay, regardless if we don't see eye to eye, that's great. I'm gonna continue to stay in my lane, but you weren't in your own lane. Hey, that's your opinion too. If we don't see eye to eye, that's great, okay? I don't want to talk about what we just talked about. No one's asking you to talk about what you've talked about. We're just saying you're not staying in your own lane. Stay in your lane. You. Keep doing you. Keep puffing your chest up, bro. Puffing my chest? Yeah, you are. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. You're trying to be a big dog, and it's just... I'm not trying to be a big dog. Listen to you. You weren't there when he and I talked last night. And guess who's trying to be a big dog? That guy. How's he trying to be a big dog? Again, you weren't there last night, so explain it. He thinks I'm getting in his lane when I'm not. You are. You're worried about his date. No, he's not, Tyler. What he's doing is he's looking out the window. Oh, so you heard my little analogy. That's how you crash, man. That's how you crash. Yeah, don't text and drive. And who should walk in and end this incredible conversation but Mr. Chris Harrison? Turns out, Hannah, very emotional. And so there's not going to be a cocktail party tonight. We're again going straight into a rose ceremony. The guys all walk out one by one and say, "This is your fault, Luke. We hate you, Luke. You suck, Luke."
I just want you to know this isn't...
That's your fault, bro.
3 in a row, Luke. Keep it up.
Trace, not taking the blame for this one, man.
But folks, we are still not done with Luke yet. Dylan and Dustin are sent home, and at this point, Jed's starting to lose it.
I hate this dude. Yeah. If he comes over here, I'm gonna knock him the out. Hey.
Outside, Chris Harrison asks Hannah, "What do you like so much in Luke anyways?"
I'm either falling in love with Luke or Luke is making me go crazy.
Episode 7. This week we are in the Netherlands, and it is the week before hometowns. For those who don't know, hometowns is where the top 4 contestants take the lead to their hometown and they introduce the lead to their family. It's a pretty big deal, pretty serious step in their relationship. And because it's right around the corner now, you know there's going to be some good drama this week. But hey, let's talk about Connor. Y'all remember Connor? It's okay. You don't have to lie to me. Out of all the guys here, Connor's one-on-one was the farthest back, and as you remember, Hannah was sick, so they really only got to go on like half of a date. So this week, Connor feels like he really needs that one-on-one time to know if him and Hannah can go the distance. And actually, the odds are pretty strong for him because there's 3 one-on-ones this week, so it might finally be his time. Well, Hannah picks Jed to go on a one-on-one.
He didn't bring his guitar, did he?
I hope not.
It goes well. Jed gets a rose. Tyler gets a one-on-one. Goes well. Tyler gets a rose. One more one-on-one left. And Mike gets it. So it's not looking great for Connor. Connor walks over to Hannah's hotel room and is like, "Hey, Hannah, I'd really like to spend some time with you." And Hannah breaks his heart. Hannah says that Connor has sort of faded over the past couple of weeks. And even though they've always had really good talks and a good time together, Hannah at this point knows that there are serious relationships here and she can't get there with Connor in time. So our sad puppy Connor has to go home. But the sadness is not over yet. Hannah is on her one-on-one date with Mike and she realizes that she doesn't feel the same way that Mike does. In this scene, when I watched it the first time, it made me cry because Mike seems like such a great guy and you can tell that Hannah knows that too. That's why she's so emotional.
You've talked about your 3 ladies in your life. They're so amazing and like you're looking for your 4th lady and I know that I'm not that 4th lady.
Mike deserves so much better from the Bachelor franchise. I think he's happily in a relationship now with someone he met away from the show and, you know, I hope he's thriving. Luke, for one though, is thrilled to hear that Connor and Mike are gone.
1 rose. Mike's suitcase gets taken away, and now there's 2 roses. And I'm the only one that's happy?
Tyler takes the time to point out what we've all really been thinking this whole time.
The worst thing about all this is like we have a villain, and usually the villain's like some big, tall. We got a 5'8" villain.
The worst kind of villain. Tyler's like, hey man, if everyone here doesn't like you, maybe we're not the problem. Maybe you're the problem, Luke P. And Luke says, well, that's not true because, you know, me and my bestie Garrett, yes, that Garrett. Me and my bestie Garrett were just chatting it up yesterday. And Garrett's like, dude, I'm not gonna ignore you when you talk to me. I was bullshitting you yesterday. Sorry, I don't actually like you. And the whole group is like, Luke, please promise that you're not going to pull any shit tomorrow.
Are we gonna have any issues tomorrow?
No, I'm totally cool.
I swear, man. You pull tomorrow? Oh, man.
Before they leave, Tyler is like, hey, Peter, Garrett, kill it. Bring it home.
Garrett, Peter, I'll be praying for you guys. I'll be praying for Hannah. Wish you all the best.
And Jed's like, Luke, just try to keep your head out of your ass, okay?
And Luke, man, just keep your head out of your ass, man.
Out of all people, I'm surprised you had the balls to tell me that, but I'll keep that in mind.
Good energy going into the last group date here. Peter, Garrett, and Luke walk into the group date room. And I still think about this room. I know what's about to happen. Hannah and Luke start talking. Hannah's like, hey, Luke, how have you been? And Luke's like, oh, well, you know me, Hannah. I don't like to talk about the other guys here, and I've done absolutely nothing wrong ever.
You know me, I hate talking about the other guys, but you know, I don't have to say any names because a lot of the time I wish you were a fly on the wall and you could see their character be exposed. And like, I've done nothing.
But today, Jed said to keep my head out of my ass, and I would expect that from Tyler. But from sweet, sweet Jed, it was disgusting, and I'm worried for you, Hannah. Oh, and also, Garrett said that he was being fake to me. Hannah is like, I just don't understand why there's so much drama with you. Like, what even is this?
If I screw up time and I rob them time with you, guess what? They all turn on me, hate me, and start saying some crap that's totally fake and not true about me. That's the only reason why they dislike me.
So now, again, she has to spend this group date getting to the bottom of this Luke P drama. Hannah pulls Garrett and she's like, hey, Garrett, so Luke said that you were pretending to be nice to him and then said later you were being fake? Like, what's up with that? Me, Hannah Brown, if I don't like someone, I just don't like someone.
You're stronger than me for being able to tell someone to their face that you don't like him, and to me, by responding short is my version of I don't like you.
I hate to have to defend Garrett, but as someone who also lived in the South, you know, until I was 5 years old, I feel like being fake nice to a person you don't like instead of causing a scene is just a thing that you do. Or even if you're not Southern, sometimes you're just stuck in a situation with someone you don't like and you have to play nice. Even if you really want to throw the coffee pot at your coworker, society says that you can't do that. Lame, I know. Does that mean that you're fake? I guess. But is it like a meaningful issue? I don't think so. But now Garrett has reached his final form. He has unlocked a new level of pettiness that once again demands a reenactment. Hannah tells me that you talked to her about me. Again, didn't you say last night that you weren't going to throw any Hail Marys and you were going to stay in your own lane? Well, if Hannah asks me something, I'm going to answer it. Exactly, which is why I answered her question when she asked me about you. But I didn't bring you up. Good. She brought you up and I answered it. Good, good. Yeah, it is good. All right, great. It's very good. It's very, very good. Got nothing to say to you, man. That's okay. Because I know it's just going to be bullshit anyways. But something tells me Hannah's going to know it too. Hannah's going to know what? That everything you say is bullshit. I've been giving Hannah nothing but the truth this whole time. Okay. In your eyes, everyone else is the issue and everyone else puts you in this situation. But are we starting to think maybe it's Luke's fault? Okay, it's your fault. You talk about everybody. You're the fakest person I've ever met. You don't even know me. Oh, I know you and I will double point on that one. Double pistols. I know you, whether you like it or not, and I don't give a shit either way. Everybody knows you. I'm tired of seeing this fake smirk on your face. It's a real smirk, my friend. This is the fakest smile I've ever seen. It's a real smile. Look at it, baby. I'm tired of this, okay? I'm done. Well, I'm gonna keep going, so until you do something about it, I'm just gonna keep going. Do something about what? If Hannah's gonna ask me a question, I'm gonna answer it. So she asked you, why did Garrett say he was you last night when she wasn't even there in that conversation? She asked me what I thought about you. Oh, the truth comes out. She's asking me about you. Okay. Yeah, and she asked me and what it was and what's been going on lately. You are a weasel. I'm a weasel. A weasel or a snake? A snake. Yeah. Luke Psychopath the Snake. Really? Yeah, your words are meaningless. Well, you know what? Hannah seemed to appreciate what I had to say, so that's all I care about. I don't care what you think, man. You disgust me. That's fantastic. You make me want to gag. Luke, man. You might not see it, but you're falling. And you're reaching for branches. I am never, and I'm not ever going to reach for anything. I have been nothing but truthful to Hannah, and you are not gonna mess it up. I'm not gonna mess it up? No, I don't care what you said to her, but I'm tired of it. You know what this is? This is a pile of bologna. Look at it. Also, I think it's worth noting that Luke says this is bologna and he drops, I think, salami. It's a different type of meat. And this isn't bologna either. It's tofurkey. Listen, both of these men suck, but you cannot write this drama.
I've been nothing but truthful with Hannah, and you are not gonna mess it up.
I will remember the bologna fight on my deathbed.
You know what this is right here? This is a pile of bologna. Look at that.
And yes, even though the fight is silly, this is once again showing Luke's unnecessary aggression, yelling, and if that's how he acts in front of cameras, it's worrying, right? After this fight, Luke P walks out and he's like, hey Peter, listen, I wasn't gonna bring up anybody, but Hannah asked me about stuff and I know, so annoying. But anyways, I just talked to Garrett and he fed me a bunch of bologna.
You know, I just had Garrett over here come up to me and just feed me a bunch of bologna. And it's
baloney.
Even Peter is losing it at this point. But to Peter's credit, Peter has always stayed in his own lane and focused on his relationship with Hannah. And he does that again today. He gets the group date rose because he actually just talks to Hannah about their own relationship. Crazy. And he screams through the Netherlands streets all the way home. But the boys have all the confidence in the world that Garrett will come back tonight with a rose on his chest, and that the Luke P show will finally be over.
Are you licking your lips because you're attracted to me?
Gross, Garrett. At the dinner portion of this date, Luke and Garrett are going all out. Luke once again shares his testimony about how he was getting mad bitches in college until he saw God in the shower or whatever. Garrett says that he loves Hannah.
I love you. I love you.
So yeah, it'd be pretty awkward if she picked Luke right after that.
Luke, will you accept this rose?
Yep. Listen, I wasn't sad to see Garrett go. He was a pot stirrer, and I watched the season after seeing all of the heinous stuff he posts on Instagram. So no love lost there. But we're at hometowns. There is actually a real chance that Hannah could end up with Luke. The manipulation, the ego, the shaming, that could be Hannah's forever.
I just want you to know through it all, I've gotten to see sides of you that I know they haven't seen yet. You're probably gonna look at me and say, you don't even know me. I like to think I do.
Will it? Find out next week. Episode 8, it's hometowns, which means we're in for at least one very uncomfortable family who really is not suited for television, and everyone pretending they live in a major city instead of like an hour outside of an exciting place. If I had a hometown date, I would probably take them, I don't know, to like Edgar Allan Poe's grave, maybe get dinner at the Horse You Came In On saloon, you know, where they found the body of Edgar Allan Poe. Something romantic about a guy who married his child cousin. We are starting off with our golden boy, Peter Weber. What becomes, I think, particularly apparent in this episode is Peter is way more into Hannah than she is into him. He describes their romance as this like fiery, passionate thing. Meanwhile, Hannah is like, yeah, I honestly didn't even notice Peter till halfway through the season, but yeah, he's a handsome guy. And you can guess, since we're with Pilot Pete, we're gonna fly a plane, and we're gonna do loop-de-loops over his family home.
Who's my boy?
Oh man, his family. So, spoiler alert, I guess, Pilot Pete was the first Bachelor show I ever watched. It was the season that aired right after this, and you learn a whole lot about his family on that season. They are an interesting bunch. There's this quote from Peter's mom that my partner Dan and I still say all the time.
Don't let her go. Don't let her go.
Don't let her go! It's a classic. It's a classic. We're not there yet. We don't know that Peter's going to be the Bachelor. But because Peter is the Bachelor to be, he has a very solid hometown. His family's cute. They're singing in German.
Abendessen, fröhlich, fröhlich, fröhlich.
They're all crying. His dad is hot. That's not a relevant fact, but it is a fact. And overall, Hannah and Peter are having a good old time together.
Is she the one? I mean, is this the one that makes your heart go...
Starting off hometowns strong. Next, we have Tyler C. They mentioned this earlier on the show, but basically right before Tyler C had to go on, his dad got really sick and almost died. So Tyler's really excited to be back home and actually see how his dad's doing. And he also shows Hannah his childhood home that his family lost in the recession. And generally speaking, Tyler is getting really emotionally vulnerable. But of course, this vulnerability has to be cut between shots of Tyler's hot bod and Hannah playing air guitar with a local reggae ska band. We all know why Tyler's in the top 4. Hannah knows why Tyler's in the top 4. Look at him. Hannah does at least have some really sweet moments with Tyler's dad, who's very supportive of this relationship. And his whole family is talking about how much Tyler stepped up for the family, how he took over the family business when their dad got sick, and they really do think that he's ready to settle down and have a real relationship. And Hannah and Tyler are dry humping in the car. Get after it, Hannah Brown. Then, still here, Luke P. For Luke's hometown, he takes Hannah to his Bible study, and he once again tells the story about how he drank alcohol and saw God in the shower. I understand, as an evangelical Christian, you tell your testimony a lot, but there's something so funny about hearing the exact same story, told the exact same way, 3 times on a reality show when you got the gist of it the first time you heard it. But Luke's Bible group can't get enough of him.
He's the real deal. It's just evident in how he lives, how he talks, and he's been a good friend for me.
You're making me blush.
Luke P always has a smile on his face. Luke P stops on a major highway just to help an old lady cross the street. Luke P is my hero. And Hannah is just relieved to hear people actually saying nice things about him for once. We go back to Luke's family home and Hannah meets all of Luke's family and she does not sugarcoat it. She's like, yeah, we had a great first couple of days, but then it was all downhill after that, and Luke did get in fights with everybody in the house, and that was basically all his fault. I love when one of Luke's family members asks the question we've all been thinking.
So why is he here?
I don't know.
The $1 million question. Luke then goes to talk to his father separately, and his father is like, oh my gosh, Hannah's heart has softened to you, and that is a gift like we could never deserve. Even Luke's dad knows that Hannah is out of Luke's league. And Luke says, I'm gonna be real, I don't see this not working out in the end. Like, I look at her and I see Miss Parker.
I'm being real. I can't see this not working out in the end. Like, I look her in the eyes and I see Miss Parker.
We then cut to Hannah talking to Luke's brother, and she says, you know, something that bothers me about Luke is sometimes he acts like he has this in the bag. He acts really arrogant sometimes. And Luke's poor brother, he's like, Luke? No way, that's not him at all.
Sometimes it was like he thought he had it in the bag, and it was really frustrating because it came across a little arrogant even with me.
Hearing what you say, it's not who Luke really is.
I'm being real. I can't see this not working out in the end.
These editors were working overtime this season, and I just want them to know I appreciate them. At the end of the night, Luke says that he loves Hannah, and she is amazed that she just had a good day. All day with Luke.
Hey, we had a good day, all day.
We did.
That's like a big deal.
Which should not be an impressive feat in a healthy relationship, but there we go. Then, our last boy, Jed. Let's all take a guess where you think Jed will take Hannah for his hometown. Here, I'll give you some time to think about it. Oh my gosh, you're so smart. Yes, Jed takes Hannah to his studio and he makes her write a song with him and they sing together in the booth.
Just could feel it in our hearts.
Which is of course where Jed says that he loves her. I'll be your Mr. Right girl. But the night is just getting started. We get to meet Jed's family, and Jed makes a toast to the girl he is starting to fall in love with. And you can see Jed's mom actively cringe as he says it. And then Jed's mom gives a toast to trusting your gut and your intuition. And when you stick to your truth, it's beneficial to everybody.
Cheers. That's good.
And here's to everyone being honest about any secret girlfriends they may have and to promoting your music career on national television. So Hannah goes to sit down with Jed's mom, and Jed's mom isn't having any of it.
I've told your son that I'm falling in love with him. But I'm like, do you say that to all of them? No.
To be fair, there is at least one parent who is understandably skeptical about people wanting to get married after 8 weeks on a reality show. If I was on this show, my parents would definitely ruin it for me in the hometowns because they wouldn't buy into it either. But Jed's mom, Jed's family, seem especially skeptical of Jed wanting to settle down with Hannah. Hannah is like, do you think Jed's ready to get married? And Jed's mom is like, no.
I wouldn't have felt that way before, just because he's a musician.
Hannah then asks Jed's sister if she thinks Jed is ready for marriage if this relationship seems good. And Jed's sister is like, no.
And honestly, like, him potentially falling in love with you, I'm like, I'm not sure that it's a good thing.
And Hannah's like, well, that kind of sucked. So who will she take into the fantasy suites? 3 roses on the table, yet 4 men stand before her. And she cannot pick between Jed and Luke P. She walks out of the room and starts anxiously tearing up the rose because she just doesn't feel like either of these relationships are over. So Hannah walks back in and she's like, guys, I can't give out a final rose because I'm giving out 2 final roses.
I can't give out a final rose.
Gentlemen, Hannah. The roses you asked for.
Jed's pissed.
Let's go.
Jed is so insulted that Hannah would dare put Jed in the same category or even close to the same category as Luke P. Remember that. But the good news is Jed will have plenty of time to mull this all over on a 15-hour flight to Greece, baby. Episode 9. It is Fantasy Suite Week. For those who have never watched the show, Fantasy Suite Week is often thought of as like the sex week because each remaining date gets to spend a one-on-one overnight experience with the bachelor or bachelorette. No cameras. They can do or talk about whatever they want. It's also the only time they're allowed to talk about political views with each other, by the way, and normally they never say whether they actually had sex or not. Usually they'll just wake up, hair all tussled, super giggly, and they'll say stuff like, wow, last night we really just filled each other's holes in our hearts, or we came together last night to so many conclusions about love, you know, coy stuff like that. And not to say that physical intimacy wouldn't be an important aspect of their relationships, but I'd imagine having that time where you're not mic'd up and you really can say what you want would be so important if you really do want an engagement at the end of this. Up first, we have Mr. Pilot Pete. They're getting hot and heavy on a boat while the deckhands and camera crew are all stepping over them. They're having a grand old time, and Peter tells Hannah that he loves her. Then for the overnight portion, they go to a windmill. Who doesn't love a good windmill? When we see them the next morning, they're both looking super happy, and Peter is like, not gonna lie guys, I got this in the bag. Did Hannah fuck in that windmill? Who knows? The next date is with Tyler C, and yes, of course he's shirtless again. The women of America depend on it. But the thing is, Hannah is worried because she's so physically into Tyler. She feels like her emotional connection with him isn't where she wants it to be, and she wants to know, is their relationship more than them just being 2 very hot people? So Hannah says that she doesn't want to be physically intimate with Tyler during the fantasy suites. And one thing about Tyler is he respects women. He loves Hannah and he just wants that time to be with her, and he wants Hannah to be 100% comfortable and confident in what they do together. The next day, Hannah says that he was the most respectful man that's ever been with her, ever. Tyler C is walking away and Hannah fully bursts into tears. I, at this point, am fully seeing the Tyler and Hannah love story. Date 3, Jed. Jed is still upset that Hannah had a hard time picking between slimeball number 1 and slimeball number 2. Jed actually pulls Hannah aside during the day portion of their date, and he says, straight up, I don't understand, Hannah, how you can be so great and see something in Luke, who's been nothing but toxic to you and everyone else here. And Hannah's like, I mean, how real do you want me to be? And Jed's like, no, say how you feel. Hannah basically tells Jed that she fell in love with Luke at first sight. Not in those exact words, but that's certainly the implication there.
At the beginning, we had I had a really strong connection with him that I couldn't really describe. Like I always have said, like it was just like weird. It was weird.
But the conversation isn't over yet. At their dinner, Hannah says, hey, Jed, I appreciate you bringing up your concerns. I know you're just looking out for me. Just know that I'm my own person and I can make my own decisions. Okay, we good? And Jed's like, well, actually no. Even though your relationship with Luke has nothing to do with our relationship, your choices impact our relationship. And it makes me feel nervous about your judgment and like maybe you have a hard time letting go of things that aren't good for you. Hannah does get mad at this initially, initially, but more than that, she just seems like sad, flustered, exhausted, tired of having to explain her relationship with Luke to other people. And again, Hannah does know that there are problems. She does know that on some level her feelings for Luke don't make sense, but she feels like she doesn't have clarity, and therefore she can't rule Luke out just yet. Jed and Hannah do eventually drop this conversation, and it seems like they just have a nice time in the fantasy suites. So that just leaves one more date. Luke and Hannah get a nice helicopter ride to Santorini, and Luke is very excited to propose to Hannah in just a week.
I think it would be so fun if we could swing from a ladder up here.
I love your imagination.
Seems like it's a great day until we get to the dinner. I would love to do a full recreation of this scene, but it's 17 minutes long. Even the shorter version on YouTube is 8 minutes long. So for that reason, I will only be recreating the highlights and summarizing the rest. But I do truly recommend at least watching the clip on YouTube because it is such a cathartic piece of Bachelor Nation history. Hannah and Luke sit down for their dinner, and you can hear the distant rolls of thunder in the background. Luke says that there's so many things he wants to talk about because this is marriage. It's serious.
There's so many things that, I want from myself and my future wife and my future that, I want it the way I want it, you know what I mean?
He really hit the nail on the head there. And he says, Hannah, let's talk about sex. I know neither of us are virgins, but I plan to abstain from sex until marriage. And I've heard other people on this show say that they're Christian, proclaim their faith, but then say that they want to explore sexual intimacy during the fantasy suites. And to Luke, that makes absolutely no sense. And he straight up tells Hannah that he doesn't believe that that's something Hannah should do. And if Hannah had sex with one or multiple of these guys, Luke would want to go home. So Hannah, have you? Luke wants to know. Hannah, understandably, upset by that question. She says, listen, sex is a beautiful thing, but the way you've said stuff, I don't agree with at all. And you don't have the right to say what I should do or know what I've done. Sex out of marriage might be a sin, but pride is also a sin out of marriage, and I feel like this is a pride thing. And Luke's like, all right, let me walk some of this back because I can see this conversation isn't going my way.
I don't want to get into the being misconstrued and being misunderstood thing again, because it's happened a lot with me throughout this process.
It's what you said.
If you, slip up and I guess accidentally had sex with one of the guys, but all of them, Hannah, if you had sex with all of them, I'd want to go home. And here is Hannah's response to this, as performed by me. Whoa. Honestly, like what you're saying, the words that you're saying, they're not okay. They're really not okay. And the closest thing I've ever felt to love at first sight was probably with you. And our relationship from the beginning gave me so much hope. And then was like, all this shit kept happening. And honestly, you have already broken my heart through this, like truly. And I have broken my own heart because I've allowed everything and to ignore all the red flags I feel. And to have you say this about me and make me feel like you would look at me any differently and judge me or make me feel like you would not look at me as a woman of faith, which I am, and that we weren't on the same page. Like, no. You're holding other people to a standard that you don't even live by. Maybe because you abstain from sex, but there's a lot of things that you struggle with. And just because I might want to or have had sex, just like I'm X'd off. When it's like I could have X'd you off so many times for things I wanted out of a relationship, and that is just sex for you, and that you're like, if you've had sex, then I'm going home. It's like, well, I want somebody who gets along with people, who doesn't have pride issues. Like, there's so many things that I don't want out of a husband that you've shown. And so it's like, oh my God. It's like a big you. That's what that is. You know the story in the Bible about when the woman was caught in adultery and she's thrown in the village and Jesus is like, you without sin, throw the first stone. What you just did was you're holding your stone up at me and asking what I've done. And I know that I have God in my heart. I know that everything that I do and who I am is light. I am light. Do I make mistakes? I'm not Jesus. You've not shown respect for any of the guys here, and I'm finally seeing that. And you haven't shown respect for me here, especially right now. And honestly, you haven't even shown yourself respect here. I know that I have given this my all. There are so many times where I've wanted to say, I'm done with you, but my heart has just not allowed me to let you go. And I've prayed so much for clarity, and I feel like I've finally gotten clarity on you. and I do not want you to be my husband. So Hannah gets up, she's trying to walk him to the car, and he refuses to get up. He's like, please let me speak. You owe it to me to let me speak. As if Hannah isn't allowed to just end the relationship without his permission. That's when Hannah gets real mad.
I feel like you owe me at least
I don't owe you anything.
a minute to...
Oh my God, I cannot believe you just said that. I'm so mad.
She's like, dude, I don't owe you anything. I have sacrificed so much for this relationship. The wind is picking up, the rain is pouring. She manages to get Luke down by the car, but he still is refusing to be broken up with, which once again demands a dramatic reenactment. I don't even care what you just said to me about you having clarity. I still feel like you don't. There's something in me that is refusing me to get in that car right now. If you really want, I could probably get you to go in that limo, based on what you said. I'm so mad. So like, I have had sex. Say what? Jesus still loves me. Based on me, you know, in a windmill, you probably want to get in that car right now. I didn't just go to the fantasy suite. I in a windmill. And guess what? We did it a second time. The way the weather gets increasingly worse throughout this conversation, you couldn't ask for something more cinematic. And in that moment, it feels so cathartic to see Hannah finally have the floodgates open for her and have her see Luke for what he truly is.
You're not going to tell me what I should and shouldn't do, and that's the language that he was using. I answer to the Lord, I don't answer to Luke.
And not just that, she doesn't let him interrupt her. She corrects him when he tries to pretend he didn't say things he just said. I feel like everyone has had some version of Luke in their life, but not everyone gets the chance to lay it all out the way Hannah did. I also think with Bachelor Nation having a very large conservative Christian fan base, this conversation, it feels pretty radical. Even though the majority of people have sex before marriage, Christian or not, there is this purity culture that shames people and gatekeeps faith, and that culture is front and center here. See, it's scenes like this that make the Bachelor franchise so fascinating. The men tell all. The men tell all, where 15 men fight over petty drama that happened 6 months ago, while 5 guys who left night 1 fight for screen time as a last-ditch effort to secure a spot on Bachelor in Paradise. But before all these men can tell all, Chris Harrison must give us the latest crisis occurring in Croate Greece. As you know, Hannah just sent Luke home, but she still has one more rose ceremony to pick her final 2. And I'm sorry, but what in the 2013 Forever 21 sales wreck have they put this poor woman in? I have restrained myself from discussing some of the terrible styling choices the Bachelor team continues to make, but I cannot be silent on this one. The Bachelor production team loves to just coast on the hotness of their leads when it comes to their styling. Is it a fit, or are they just the Bachelorette? But I digress. Hannah has reflected on what Luke said and really on her whole relationship with Luke. And at this point, she's just so relieved that Luke is out of her life.
I'm so glad Luke is finally gone and I never have to see him again.
Boy, it sure would be bad if that wasn't the case.
I'm not through. This isn't over for me yet.
Yup, Luke P has decided to come back and fight for Hannah. My favorite line is when he says this.
Hannah thought there's no way I'd want to be with her anymore, and she's sadly mistaken.
Joke's on Hannah, she has to be in a relationship with me. And I will say, the show really tries to make it look like Luke has gone rogue with this ring in his pocket, frantically speaking into an iPhone camera. But he's being driven by Bachelor production. He's mic'd up right now. That's a Neil Lane ring if I ever saw one. And this is where I truly get enraged with the carelessness of the Bachelor production team. Luke has always towed that line of plausible deniability, but he has said and done things that are indicators of some more dangerous behavior. And at the very least, he has certainly put Hannah through a season of emotional distress. And now, even when Hannah has fully resigned herself to not engage with this man, the show hypes him up, gives him a ring, feeds into his delusions, all for just one more scene of Luke P drama. It's so infuriating and so disrespectful to Hannah. And also, Hannah's not really in a place where she can say something about that, because the same people putting her in these emotionally stressful situations are the ones writing her checks. Of course, we all know that reality TV exploits people, but this is just so clear-cut, I can't not mention it. But the other guys don't know that Luke got sent home, so they have Luke just line up as if he's waiting for the rose ceremony with the other guys. Hannah is already stressed because she does still need to send someone home who she really cares about. And then she goes out and sees that Luke is there. Luke walks up and is like, "Hannah, I refuse to leave until I have closure. You totally misunderstood me, and I need to get things off my heart." Hannah, rightfully so, lets him have it.
This is my heart we're talking about here.
This is not about your heart. You're so narcissistic, and it's always about my this, my that, my that. It's not.
Luke also says that relationships are about communication, then immediately cuts Hannah off.
How relationships work is through communication.
Well,
And listen,
Because communication to Luke means letting Luke spew his bullshit until Hannah finally agrees with him. Hannah says, "I'm sorry, Luke, if I've broken your heart, but my heart's already been broken so many times and I'm done with this." To which Luke says, "My heart isn't broken yet because I'm still standing here."
God, well, all right.
Did you?
This is also finally when the other three men who have been standing here this whole time start to back Hannah up.
Lay your hands
Or
off
what?
me.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I still hear Tyler C saying, "Or what?" on late nights. Haven't felt a thing since I saw that, really. Luke is still insisting he was misunderstood and that he just needs to talk to her, when finally Chris Harrison comes out.
So, Hannah,
Yeah.
what do you want? This is all up to you.
Don't act like you're on her side, Chris. You knew Luke was standing out there and sent her in with no warning. Luke says, "Hey, I'll leave if Hannah says to my face that she has no feelings for me." And Hannah's like, "Yep, don't like you." That is when finally Luke is like, "Okay, I've embarrassed myself enough. I'm gonna leave." And the boys are ecstatic.
Absolutely.
Luke's show is so over, and we still have a rose ceremony to go through, but it's a good day.
We are finally free from the wrath of Luke P. Except we're watching the men tell all, so we actually have to listen to Luke talk for another half hour. Luke comes out and the vibes are off. No one in the audience is clapping. Luke constantly stops what he's saying to death stare at people in the audience.
I'm not here to argue.
And because he is now aware that he can't just speak off the cuff without sounding like an asshole, he's taking incredibly long pauses in between questions to try and think of the least offensive answer.
Just walk away.
Trying to think of how to put this so it's clear to you.
And even then, that doesn't really work for him.
I don't get to see her straddle or mount or swap saliva with those other guys.
Now, there are at least some interesting pieces of self-reflection here. For one, maybe because there's no way around it, Luke does admit to lying about Luke S., about being arrogant, prideful. And after watching the show, Luke agrees that he didn't like what he saw. But that fantasy suite conversation with Hannah, he still doesn't really have an explanation for. He first says that he has a standard for himself as to what he would want in a marriage. And he explained to Hannah that if she did have sex, that would be a deal breaker for him. He would remove himself from the relationship. But that's not judging her, not at all. And Chris Harrison does ask, well, that's fine if that's your preference, but if that's such a deal breaker, why didn't you just leave? Why did you insist on coming back? Luke again takes a very long pause and basically says that he wanted to fight through anything for Hannah. I wasn't raised like nearly as Christian as Luke, but I'm certainly familiar with the purity culture he was raised in, and I don't think Luke is capable of seeing sex outside of marriage as anything other than like succumbing to sinful urges. He cannot understand that Hannah practices her faith differently than him, and she made a choice based on what she thought was right for herself. And even putting his moral hangups aside, those are really secondary to him having Hannah's affection, the idea of having a wife, and at least in my opinion, having control over Hannah. It seemed like Hannah was never a real person to Luke. And it also felt like their faith sort of predisposed both Hannah and Luke to thinking that them meeting was fate, that they were destined on some level to be in each other's lives. And that belief made them stay in a relationship that wasn't what either of them wanted for way too long. And also, although Christianity does not have to guide men to believe women are submissive to their husbands, that does seem to be what Luke believes.
I do want an independent woman in my life for my future wife. Although a man is supposed to lead and guide a woman in the relationship.
Hannah has also said that part of why her and Luke lasted as long as it did was because she was insecure about being the Bachelorette. That first night, she had really bad imposter syndrome, and Luke hyping her up, saying that he was here for her, it was like, okay, well, this is one person at least who's here for me. And her confidence that he was here for her allowed that relationship, in her eyes, to continue on longer than it needed to. Obviously, all of this is complicated, and I don't want to pretend to know what was going on in Luke's or Hannah's mind, but I also don't want to omit how Luke P really did upset viewers who have had some version of a Luke P in their lives, whether through his lying, his weaponization of faith, his anger. And unfortunately, a show like The Bachelorette is really not equipped to have real discussions about these topics. Luke P bad, but Luke P gone. Problem solved. That's what the show takes away from all of this. But at least the Men Tell All does give us some much needed John Paul Jones content.
Oh, God!
And John Paul Jones will be hitting the beach for Bachelor in Paradise, which is also a wild season of content I would happily cover at another time.
Allowing me to talk, you're bulldozing through that statement.
Name one thing that I said that's false, Derek. Don't insult my intelligence, Derek.
Episode 10A. Folks, we've made it to the first part of the Bachelorette finale, and we are finally going to see the resolution to that rose ceremony. Going into the rose ceremony, Hannah is already very emotional. First, Hannah picks Jed. She picks Jed, and then she picks Tyler. Peter is shocked, and they're both in tears. Hannah tries to explain that there's nothing wrong between them, and when she was growing up with Barbies, Peter was like this Ken doll, the perfect guy that she's always dreamed of. It really does seem like she's not totally confident in her decision to let Peter go. And I mean, from what we've seen this season, Jed over Peter? Peter gives his tearful exit speech, and we cut to him in front of the live studio audience, with his mom also there, crying right behind him. I really do love how much Chris Harrison keeps hyping up Peter's family, because just wait for his season. We have not seen the last of Peter's mom by a long shot. You know, when it comes to The Bachelor, Bachelorette, I don't always buy that the exes are still upset over the breakups by the time we get to the live studio audience part, but it really does seem like Peter cared about Hannah, and he seems genuinely emotional. But who cares about that? Hannah has some very important information to tell us all.
It was actually 4 times.
Something about hearing Peter's mom scream laugh over this makes me want to, just leave my skin. I don't need it anymore. Oh, and Peter, before you go, maybe now we can talk about the article that just came out, you know, about how Peter's ex-girlfriend is claiming that he dumped her to go on The Bachelorette. Oh, they don't talk about that? They're out of time? We just had to watch Barbara Weber scream about her son having sex? Okay, next we see Hannah's family as they get ready to meet her final 2 men. And immediately, like everyone else, they are in love with Tyler. He's a gentleman. He's a dancer. And Hannah's dad is really impressed that they didn't hook up during the fantasy suite. The day goes so well with Tyler that the next day, when they're supposed to meet Jed, everyone's like, I don't really know if anyone's going to be able to top Tyler. I mean, are they wrong? So Jed walks in, and because he's Jed, he immediately starts talking about how he's a musician. And you can see Hannah's entire family visibly cringe at that information.
I'm a musician and a songwriter, and
we're in for a day. Hannah's dad is really worried about Jed being able to be the man of the house and, you know, provide with a music career. But don't worry, Hannah's dad. Jed's got dog food jingle money.
My most major accomplishment is that I signed a deal with a dog food company.
They'll never have to worry about putting food on the table again. Jed's got a lifetime supply.
The dog really does deserve the best, so go pick him up some better balls.
But also, let's be so serious right now. We are at the peak of the reality show to influencer pipeline. Hannah's never gonna have to work again. They can live off podcasts and Fit Tea sponsorships for the rest of their days. That is not the biggest concern when it comes to Jed. Afterwards, Hannah's like, well, family, did you like Jed?
Well, how do you feel about Jed and I together? He has qualities.
And once again, we're seeing this pattern where everyone around her is telling Hannah, we kind of like this other guy. We don't really like this one guy. But Hannah can't help herself, and she's like, what if they're all wrong? Jed's own family said that he wasn't ready for a relationship. Her family hates him. He straight up told her that he was here to promote his music. And she's still like, but what if he's a good guy? She still has some time to decide though, so she has another great date with Tyler, and she spends her date with Jed throwing up on the side of a boat and doubting their relationship. The throwing up isn't technically Jed's fault, but in spirit, it feels like it is. So who will Hannah choose? Well, before part 1 ends, we cut back to Hannah in the live studio, and she says that she knows there have been a lot of rumors going around and these past few months have been really emotional for her, but tomorrow night she's hopeful that Bachelor Nation and herself can get answers. Now, what would Hannah be referring to? A week before the finale aired, People magazine dropped an exclusive article featuring a woman named Haley Stevens. Haley Stevens is Jed's ex-girlfriend. Haley claims that the two had been dating for 4 months. They went on vacations together, and he told her explicitly that he applied to be on The Bachelorette for his career. We spent the night together the night before he headed to LA. He told me the show was just an obstacle and we'd be stronger on the other side because of it. He wanted a platform. He kept telling me, I don't want my dad to have to help me pay rent anymore. He said he only wanted to be top 5, to be a major player so that it would be beneficial. He called me when he landed in LA. He said, I love you and I'll call you when I get back. And I have to say, if People magazine could figure out that Jed had a girlfriend, I have a hard time believing that someone in production didn't also see that Jed was publicly going on vacations with a girl a month before he was supposed to be on the show. They set Hannah up so bad on this season, and I'll never forgive them for it. Although we're going to see Hannah and Jed discuss this article more in the upcoming episode, I do think this context is necessary because going into the finale, basically anyone who's a fan of the show already knows that Jed is full of shit. And it makes what follows so painful to watch. Episode 10B. Let's just cut to the chase. Tyler walks out in blue. No one in Bachelor Nation survives breakup blue. Tyler is getting ready to propose when Hannah stops him.
And have you in my arms on our first date.
Tyler.
This isn't it.
And yeah, that got me. That still gets me. I know in reality if Hannah had picked Tyler in the end, maybe they wouldn't have worked out in the real world. These relationships rarely do. But Hannah deserves so much better than what she actually got.
I'll be your Mr. Right girl.
Okay, he didn't sing that song, but he might as well have. Just look at the look on Jed's face after they got engaged.
I'm engaged, you're engaged, we're engaged.
We're engaged together.
Wow.
We're getting married.
Hannah tells us that the night after they got engaged, Jed tells her, oh, by the way, if you hear something, you should know that I was hanging out with a girl right before the show, but it wasn't a girlfriend, we were just hanging out, and we broke up like a whole week before I went on the show, so don't worry about it. And Hannah's like, okay, that's not ideal. Sucks that you're telling me this after we got engaged, but I can live with that. Then her and Jed are together and they hear that the People magazine article is dropping. And Hannah is understandably confused. Why does this woman have such a different perception of what happened between them? And Hannah asks Jed, well, did you tell her that you loved her or something? Jed's like, oh, yeah, I did. Once. He later admits that he actually told her several times. So yeah, no duh, this woman thought they were dating. So the next day, Hannah's by herself and she reads the People article, and it is a completely different story than what she was told. When Hannah first heard that Jed was just going on the show for his music, Hannah initially thought, oh, maybe he just doesn't get what the show is. But hearing that he was talking about this, planning it with the girl that he was saying he loved, it's like a whole other level, right? We do see one more confrontation between Hannah and Jed where, once again, Hannah is rocking breakup blue. Jed explains that he was seeing this girl. He did take her to Gatlinburg for a weekend trip. He did introduce her to his parents. She did plan a surprise party for him. She did give him a trip to the Bahamas for his birthday. He did say that he loved her several times, including the night before the show. But no, they were not dating. Don't know where she'd get that idea.
What was going through your mind when it was like, Scott has a girlfriend at home, he hung out with her Monday?
I didn't have a girlfriend, though.
And again, going on The Bachelorette was explained as just a career choice for him. He didn't expect to catch real feelings for Hannah, but then he realized that if he confessed all of this to her, she would probably break up with him. He does start to cry, but I don't see any tears. And it turns out that it isn't even just the People article that Hannah's upset about. The other day, Hannah got DMs from 2 girls who went over to Jed's house super drunk.
Yeah, we didn't even know who they were.
Well, you threw him in a pool.
And Jed didn't even mention this to Hannah. And the cherry on top, apparently, Jed's been telling his friends that he won the show. Not that he's engaged, that he won. Maybe he did catch real feelings for Hannah. I certainly hope that's true because it's way more sinister to think he was faking everything just for his music. But me, I don't know if he ever cared about Hannah. And it again makes me so sad because, as Hannah said, she tried to do everything right to be engaged and married at the end of this. And this whole time there were people around her who never wanted that. Like, your heart really does break for her in those moments. When we watch her confront Jed in front of the studio audience, she is visibly trying not to break down the whole conversation. Meanwhile, the audience is cheering as she talks about ending her engagement. The show wasted her time. They really did. These days, it's not so uncommon for the Bachelor or Bachelorette to end up single at the end of the show, but they really don't like to end on a downer. The show likes to pretend that the lead is happy, so usually they'll try and fix this by having the runner-up come up and ask the lead on a date. And that is so wild because we're supposed to believe that Tyler and Hannah can somehow come back from her turning down his proposal. Well, I guess there was Ari's season of The Bachelor, so anything's possible.
I think I speak for everybody when we can ship this.
But Tyler C started dating Gigi Hadid almost immediately after this aired, so the Tyler and Hannah love story didn't go exactly as planned. Honestly, there is so much post-show drama with Hannah I would love to talk about. I think maybe I'll cover her memoir and what happened after the show for Patreon if my patrons are interested in that. But that is Hannah Brown's season of The Bachelorette, a wild piece of Bachelor history that of course had the petty arguments, the handsome men, but it also managed to open up conversations with the Bachelor audience about abuse dynamics, faith, and relationships. At the Men Tell All, Hannah actually apologizes to Bachelor Nation for letting her relationship with Luke go on as long as it did. And to be clear, Hannah didn't owe us that apology. Luke did. The show did. But we never got that. From what I've heard, Luke did go to a lot of therapy after the show, and I hope he's better for it. I mean, I think reality show contestants just need 10 therapy sessions as a part of their compensation package, but who knows if we'll ever get that. But I hope y'all enjoyed hearing about this season, and please let me know if you want to hear me cover more seasons from the Bachelor franchise, because I will, absolutely. There are so many more crazy moments I could go on about. Thank you if you watched this far. If you want to see more from me, I upload a monthly bonus video over on my Patreon for those who support me on there. I'm also streaming on Twitch a couple nights a week, and I re-upload those VODs to my second channel. And if you don't want to see any of that, that's cool. I get it. You could, however, if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!